In the dust-choked town of Black Hollow, words traveled faster than bullets, and by sundown everyone knew the rancher was marrying a girl he barely knew. Elijah Crowe stood at the edge of the church porch, boots planted in dry earth, jaw locked as the wind carried whispers across the street. Some said he'd bought her father's land. Others claimed the girl was desperate, untouched, and promised to a life she didn't understand. What no one knew was what she had asked. Him the night before the wedding, words so unexpected they had frozen the hardest man in 3 counties. Elijah Crowe was known for one thing: control. Over land, over cattle, over men who crossed him. His ranch stretched 11 inches on the survey map. Farther than any neighboring claim, an odd measurement that had become legend. Crowe always takes the full 11 inches, men joked in saloons, meaning land, leverage, and advantage. Elijah never corrected them. The bride, Clara Whitmore, arrived in a plain white dress, hands folded tight, eyes steady despite the weight of the town's stare. She was younger than him, yes, but not weak. Her father had died in debt, leaving her landless, and Elijah had offered marriage instead of eviction, a contract disguised as mercy, or so everyone thought. That night, before vows were spoken, Clara had stood in Elijah's lamplit study, her voice calm but trembling at the edges. She had said, "If I'm to be your wife, I don't want half measures. Don't be gentle because I'm untouched. Don't hold back because I'm afraid. Give me the full 11 inches of truth, of marriage, of who you really are." The words weren't about flesh. They were about power, about ownership, about whether Elijah Crowe would keep her as a symbol or let her stand beside him as an equal. Those words haunted him now as the preacher began. When Elijah took her hand, he felt how steady it was. When he looked into her eyes, he realized something dangerous. Clara Whitmore was not asking to be protected. She was asking to be claimed openly, without lies. After the ceremony, the town waited for scandal. They watched the couple ride out toward Crowe Ranch, betting on how long the marriage would last. But inside the ranch house, something shifted. Clara explored the home not like a guest, but like someone measuring her future. She touched the long oak table, the rifle rack, the wide windows. "This place tells me who you are," she said softly. "But I want to know what you hide." Elijah had never been asked that. That night, when the oil lamp dimmed and the house fell quiet, Elijah realized he could no longer keep his life measured and divided. Clara didn't want gentleness built on lies. She wanted the whole man, the rough edges, the ambition, the hunger to own more than land. And for the first time in his life, Elijah Crowe didn't know if giving everything would destroy him or finally make him free. Morning came harsh and bright, revealing truths the night had softened. Clara stood at the window, watching ranch hands move like chess pieces across the yard. "They don't look at me like your wife," she said. "They look at me like a mistake." Elijah didn't deny it. Instead, he did something unexpected. He called the men together. In the open yard, with dust swirling and silence heavy, he said, "This woman is Mrs. Crowe. What's hers is mine. What's mine is hers. Anyone who doubts that can leave." It wasn't romantic. It was public, and it mattered. But the real test came days later, when a neighboring rancher challenged Clara's claim to her father's land, insisting Elijah had only married her to absorb it. The town gathered again, hungry for humiliation. They expected Clara to stay silent. She didn't. Standing beside Elijah, she spoke with a calm that cut deeper than shouting. She revealed contracts, debts, and truths Elijah himself had never shared. She exposed how the land deal had saved families, not ruined them. And then she said the words that silenced the crowd. "I asked my husband for the full 11 inches, not of land, not of force, but of honesty, and he gave it. Can any of you say the same of the men you follow?" In that moment, Elijah understood what she had demanded from him all along. Not domination, not restraint, commitment without disguise. The marriage became something the town could no longer mock. Clara took charge of the books. Elijah learned to share authority. The ranch grew, not just outward, but stronger at its core. And when the lamp dimmed at night, what passed between them needed no witnesses, no gossip, no measurement. Because some things, when fully given, don't need to be named. And in the Wild West, where men took what they could, Elijah Crowe learned that giving everything to the right woman was The boldest act of all, power in black. Hollow never forgave a woman who stood too tall. Clara Crowe learned that quickly. It began with silence. When she entered the general store, conversations died. When she spoke, answers came clipped and cold. The preacher stopped visiting. The women of the town turned their backs, not because Clara had done wrong, but because she had done something worse. She had changed a man who terrified them. Elijah Crowe noticed it too. He noticed how Clara's name stopped appearing on ledgers that once included her, how supply prices crept higher, how men who once tipped their hats now stared as if measuring her for weakness. "They're testing you," Elijah said one evening, his voice low. Clara didn't look afraid. "Let them." The test came sooner than expected. A false accusation spread, whispered first, then spoken aloud, that Clara had tricked Elijah into marriage to steal land, that she was manipulating him, that the ranch was no longer stable under her influence. The town council demanded Elijah appear alone. He didn't. When Elijah walked in with Clara at his side, the room stiffened. One man laughed nervously. Another shook his head. "This is ranch business," someone muttered. Clara stepped forward before Elijah could speak. "If this ranch is under question," she said calmly, "then so is my marriage. And if my marriage is under question, then you are accusing my husband of weakness." No one answered, because weakness was the one thing no one had ever dared accuse Elijah Crowe of. Clara laid documents on the table, proof of profits, growth, wages raised, debt settled. She spoke not as a bride, but as a partner who understood the land better than most men in the room. When it was over, no one challenged her again. Outside, Elijah said quietly, "You didn't have to do that." She met his gaze. "I asked for all of you. That means I stand where you stand." That night, the ranch house felt different. Not louder, not softer, stronger. Every man in the West had a past. Elijah's finally came riding back into town. His name was Marcus Hale, a former partner, former brother-in-arms, and the only man who had ever come close to taking what Elijah built. Marcus arrived with a smile too smooth and eyes too knowing. He didn't go to the saloon first. He went straight to Clara. "I knew Elijah before the land," Marcus said casually, leaning against the fence. "Before the discipline. Before he learned to measure everything in inches and outcomes." Clara listened. She didn't interrupt. Marcus leaned closer. "You think you're the first woman who wanted all of him?" That night, Clara confronted Elijah. Not with anger, but with something far more dangerous. Truth. Elijah didn't deny his past. He spoke of ambition without mercy, of deals that crushed men, of nights where power mattered more than people. "I won," he said. "But I lost parts of myself doing it." Clara didn't step back. She stepped closer. "That's what I asked for," she said. "Not the man you pretend to be now, the man you were, and the man you're choosing to become." Marcus tried to divide them publicly days later, accusing Elijah of crimes long buried. The town gathered again, waiting for collapse. Instead, Elijah did something no one expected. He admitted everything. And then he said, "I won't return to that man, not because I'm afraid, but because my wife demanded more than victory. She demanded worth." Marcus left town the next morning. The legend of Elijah Crowe changed that day, and so did the way men looked at Clara years later. People still told the story wrong. They said Clara had tamed Elijah Crowe. Others said she'd conquered him. Some claimed he'd broken her instead. None of them understood. The full 11 inches was never about taking. It was about giving without fear. The ranch expanded not through force, but loyalty. Workers stayed. Families settled. Black Hollow changed because one marriage refused to be built on illusion. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Clara stood beside Elijah on the porch. "Do you regret it?" she asked. He didn't hesitate. "I regret not being brave enough sooner." The West remembered Elijah Crowe as a powerful rancher. But those who truly knew the story remembered something else. A virgin bride who demanded everything, not gently, not halfway, but honestly. And a man strong enough to give it. For more unforgettable Wild West stories filled with power, passion, and legacy, subscribe to the channel now. The next story is already waiting.